Good morning, John Mashty here. This is going to be fun. We've already told a few jokes, mostly at not my expense, but um, I am actually so pumped to be talking with two, I would say, longtime friends, Brent Mata, Brandon Mata. Um, Guys, say hi, say hello. I'll do a quick intro, but so this is like so much fun for me to just have this. We just connected again, and we're like live talking to each other. It's so cool to see you both.
Ahoy, ahoy, hello.
Hello. Yeah, and it's funny because it's been a very very long time. What I've always kind of appreciated was that we've stayed in touch in some capacity, just checking in, saying hello, all that kind of jazz, and it's I think that's like the sign of like a good friendship is that you can just kind of pick the conversation up, no matter how much time has gone by. So yeah,
Yeah.
and I've
Well,
I've,
let me.
I've appreciated watching like your career continue to like blossom and
It's been
evolve,
wild.
always still having the film experience as part of it, which is really great.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's kind of it's of a lot of value that we've functioned within the entertainment industry, media production, film and television and whatnot, and you made this interesting traverse into law, and where you were still able to apply that to what you're doing now, which I applaud. I think it's cool.
We'll dig into it. I think, guys, it's so interesting. Like, what? Well, let me just say first of all, doing a quick intro, the two of you, Brett Mata, Brandon Mata, no relation. Just kidding. I, I identical twins, right? Um, we we met. It's what sometime in the 2000s, early
It was
2000s, right?
2000. It was right after I graduated college, actually, because it was
Oh
the
seven,
first
oh eight,
the first
probably,
job
right?
I had.
So I
Probably,
remember interviewing you, Brent, and just being like, "Let's go, man."
yeah.
Um, we were in what, Flint or Grand Blanc, one of the two.
It was Flint. It was Flint because it was just near the airport over there, and
That's
Okay,
right,
shit.
yeah,
Yeah.
by the UPS center, right?
yeah,
UPS
that's right.
distribution center.
Yeah,
And we started working together. You were cutting audio, and we were running a media department. We're doing audio, video,
yeah,
and I feel like we were always pushing the edge of what will they let us do.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. There's definitely things that we would film for that company that we were like, this has nothing to do with
why? This is
anything.
really.
So,
We just wanted to do it. Yeah, we just
yeah,
wanted to do it. And so then Brandon came aboard, right? And we brought Brandon in, and so then he kind of joined the crew. And honestly, I just remember it was so fun for
it was.
me.
Yeah,
Like, I had been to New York Film Academy, and so I kind of explored like how can
yeah,
I get involved in film and storytelling. And when I came back to Michigan after going to New York, I really remember thinking like there's some parts of it I really did not like. There's some
yeah,
parts of it I loved. Like, one of the things I loved was being able to just have cool conversations about storytelling, movies, and not just cool, like we're like in depth, like really
yeah.
serious combos about like who we loved, who we dug, and all that kind of stuff. And then when I met you, Brett, I was like, dude, this will be super fun. Like, and then
Yeah.
we kind of developed that friendship, and then Brandon, same thing. Like, we could just jump into talking about Robert Rodriguez, and
Yeah.
it was just like we just felt like it was like family almost. Like, oh, dude, this is
Oh,
so fun.
well,
Well, I think
I
that's.
think
Go ahead, Brent. Sorry.
the big like, oh, this cat's really this guy's great, was when we just started going like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz.
Yeah.
That was the two that I remember that I was like, you know about this? Like what? Like, it was so brand new at the time, and we were quoting that so much.
But that's the thing. Like not to get like too far into the weeds or whatever, but ever since Brent and I went dominantly freelance, and when we were becoming relatively successful at working within our relative industries or what have you, like once you find your crew, they're just pals. Like
Mhm.
almost every crew that I work with, they're all my buddies. My DP that I've used forever, that if it's not Brent, is my colleague Shane McMurphy. Um, you just start to work with your pals, and that's kind of it's a luxury that not a lot of people have.
Yeah. Really quick too, let's do this. Like, why don't you guys share each like what you're doing now? Because I think it's kind of cool. Brandon, I know you have, why don't you start us off, Brandon? I know you have some cool experiences working on shows and stuff. Like, tell us what you're doing now.
All right. Well, I'll lay it out like this. So when Brent and I first got into film and television, I started working as an assistant camera operator, dominantly in documentary television and reality TV. Brent and I have had the luxury of working in commercial and film and fashion together, but my career took this really interesting turn where like I said, I got heavily into reality. So I worked as an AC, and then I worked as a camera operator, and I eventually progressed as a field producer shooter, meaning I would run the day and I would also shoot. That's what that sort of
Yeah.
amalgam of that role is. And then eventually I became a supervising producer for a variety of shows, including one that was nominated for a daytime Emmy.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I dominantly produce now. But because I have such a foothold in camera department, I consistently film. I know how to light, I know how to lens, and that sort of gives me a little bit of a leg up on a variety of productions.
Yeah. And people, honestly too, like I have some experience in unscripted, right? TV, which is the legal term for reality television because they don't want to get in trouble, right? For saying it's not reality. But people ask me all the time, like, yeah, how do we get a TV show? How do we get into like reality TV? It's super interesting. Just thinking about it, like you've had some cool experiences with it. Brent, why don't you do a quick intro? Or Brandon, what are you gonna say? I was gonna cut you off.
No, let's move on. I don't want to babble.
I think it's fun to at least cover what you guys are up to because we started off in a warehouse in Flint, right? Now where are we now?
Yeah. Well, I after we had worked together, I started getting a lot of work as a digital imaging technician in Michigan, especially with tax incentives. And I was fortunate to start working on a lot of commercials with some incredible cinematographers that would fly in to do car commercials, and then some of the features that came in, like Harold and Kumar 3D, and I was DITing for quite a bit, but my passion was actually color and camera, and so the color aspect was the reason I thought DITing, or I felt DITing was a really nice entrance.
It was also incredibly new at that point, wasn't it?
It was very new, and DITs were kind of a confusing that's and it was.
Yeah, who was this guy, right?
Pretty much, like it was. I don't want to sound negative, but there were a lot of like older ACs and operators who, there were some that were very inviting, and then there were others that were, I would say, very salty about it. They were used to a very specific way of doing things with film. And at that time, we had the Panavision Genesis, obviously the Red came out, the Alexa shortly after that, Sony F35. These were the digital cameras that were now replacing 35 film on set. And the truth is, like, I went to school for film, but I learned almost everything outside of my degree, just based on a fascination and nerdiness for cameras in general. And I loved it, reading up on like what these sensors did, how the image was created, what type of compression there was, how you could take certain cameras and have an amazing latitude when it came to color and exposure.
Yeah,
I loved all that. So DITing was actually a really like lateral move for me, but the change of heart I had a few years into it was, I wanted to shoot, and I was having a really hard time finding, the type of filming that I wanted to do in Michigan, because once people know you as a certain role, it's very, very difficult for them to look at you as something else. So I, in 2012, I moved to LA. I kind of went for broke, and that's a pun because I went broke for like about 6 months. I just said no to all my DIT work. I was a union DIT, so I lost all my union hours, but I was like, I got to stop DITing. I want to be a cinematographer.
Yeah.
And, you know, about 6 months into LA, also my 6 months of my first year of marriage, you know, I was like, oh my God, I moved us out here and nothing's happening. I'm getting no work. And I was like, we're going to have to move back to Michigan. And my wife is and was very supportive and like, hey, okay, we came out here. We can always go back to Michigan. No big deal. And around that like time of that statement, I started getting hired in the fashion industry. One first by a studio that was looking to explore more opportunities for video, which in our world, video, it's kind of weird to say video in film. But even weirder, they called it motion. So this was like about the end of 2000 or the middle of 2012. I got offered this position at a studio, and I just said, "Hey, listen, I'll do it, but can you please introduce me to these clients?" Their clients were all these very well-known photographers. I was like, "Can you please introduce me as a cinematographer to them because that's all I'm interested in." And they did, and so I started getting booked as a DP for photographers. We're talking like people who shoot for Condé Nast, you know, Vogue,
Yeah.
or Men's Health, you know, like anything that you see a cover on. The reason this became an opportunity was at that point, everything was kind of moving online. So your the way you were looking at like a magazine was like, you know, it's totally normal now, was all moving online. And because of that, there was a large interest in moving image, something that looked like the cover and, you know, but was a video component. And there was a lot of different versions of that. Sometimes it was just these young kids with like a Canon 5D or, you know, and that would just kind of get next to the photographer and really just shoot everything. You'd see the flashing, the strobe. And it was that was more BTS. But what was wanted was an actual piece that looked like a commercial that reflected, you know, the extraordinary talent that stills people had. I mean, great styling, great design, great hair and makeup, and then of course, like a celebrity, like you'd be shooting Taylor Swift, so why wouldn't you want to film it like a proper thing? Um, but it was very challenging for the stills world to find cinematographers, and they didn't understand that world. So there were just a few of us that were kind of like falling into it, myself and a few other DPs at the time. And, you know, I used to wonder, like, why aren't they going to the traditional agencies, you know, your Gersh and Artistry and, you know, WPA and, all of these agencies that rep below the line talent, which is, you know, cinematographers included, but production designers. And, you know, that was always confusing to me. And what I was observing in these few years was they were going to them, but because the majority of our industry's timeline was stills and video were completely separate things, it never really crossed. So if a stills person went to like those agencies, they didn't quite know how to respond to it. And they were very slow at, and this is not to, you know, demean them, but they were slow to like say, okay, well, this DP would work, you know, this ASC cinematographer or this cinematographer is known for television or what have you. And those DPs also, I would imagine also were a little more traditional and looked at the stills where I was like, well, that's a little confusing.
Well, you bring up
And it was
it's
smaller. It was
point,
smaller
'cause you get
crews. It was
pigeonholed sometimes.
very, yeah. But so for a few years I was just DPing stills and fashion. I got a lot of celebrity. I got a lot of beauty, a lot of cosmetic. I was getting great brand names. I mentioned, you know, Taylor Swift. That was like one of my first jobs, is shooting her for Glamour. Um, so my reel within a small period of time suddenly had very, you know, very effective, marketable content.
Oh yeah, that'd be great
So
stuff for a demo reel.
yeah, and I shot a couple features during that time too, two independent movies. Um, but I always had this kind of like thing in the back of my head about what I had observed about the fact that the agency model for that world wasn't uh it just wasn't stable. It didn't work. So I was shooting a documentary in Africa, and I had come home, and through a series of conversations and networking, I had the opportunity to launch an agency. And I had been mentioning this to some big players in the fashion world, like, you guys should really rep cinematographers. You should, there's no
You were
studio.
telling everyone to do your idea before
Yeah,
you said, "I'll just do it myself," essentially.
yeah, and they were, I would get, they were just, it just wasn't something they understood. And they're like, "Oh, we'll never rep DPs." And I was like, "No, there's a hole here. You need, there is literally a need and an obvious scramble to find cinematographers in these shoots." So I launched this company called Near, and I repped cinematographers who came from our world of understanding sets, but also had portfolios that I thought were very attractive to the fashion world, and that took off. And so I became an agent. And so I was agenting and being a DP at the same time, and just a really wonderful experience to see something that you really thought would be effective grow into something. And so Near became a brand and a very much a go-to agency. I named the company Near. It's kind of a take on a Sanskrit term. My wife's Indian. So I named it for my wife. And I used to say, as a cinematographer, we were kind of like we were like cinematographers were like dropping a pebble in still water and getting those ripples. So super
Oh,
hokey.
dang. I love it. I actually love this, man. This is great.
So so a couple of years ago, I exited Near and launched my new agency, Kismet. And Near was very much, I made Near to look as fashiony as possible, so that, like, it would be something that the fashion world would understand, the stills world would understand. I launched Kismet to look more narrative, more in line with that visual. And that roster, I have a few people from Near on that roster as well, but the majority of the way that looks is it's curated to be effective, not only in the fashion world, but also a little more understandable in features and
Is Kismet, Brent, is Kismet for cinematographers, an agency just for cinematographers, or is it other artists too?
Great question. So it's other artists as well. So with Near, I always knew that there would be cinematographers who were also directors. We call them director DPs. It's a combo that works in the fashion world, and typically on if it's a non-scripted kind of thing. But I always wanted to rep directors and photographers as well. So while the majority of my roster is cinematographers, I do have a handful of directors, very small, and a couple photographers. And that's more, that's just an exciting thing to finally get to experiment with. And I don't particularly think I'll add other types of roles to the or other departments to it, but I do enjoy having the ability to pitch, because these days the industry has changed quite dramatically, and they the traditional model of a production company that reps directors, typically they're the production company that comes on record as well with their director, and that's great.
Yeah.
That model is how it's been for a long time. But there are a lot of there's an appetite to find directors that can be bid to a production company. That's not like coming with a production company, that's coming with a sales agent. Yeah, I'm experimenting right now with those roles, and it's really fun.
That's awesome. You guys, it's so, like I said, it's so cool to connect. In fact, you reminded me, I kind of forgot. We were obsessed with Edgar Wright and the whole trilogy, right? And this was when Shaun of the Dead was out, Hot Fuzz. You guys will love this story. Randomly, I watched Hot Fuzz with my son, my 15-year-old son. This past weekend. And actually, I'm embarrassed to put this out there, but my 11-year-old daughter as well watched Hot Fuzz. And she was like,
That's okay.
She was like, I really liked it, but it's pretty bloody in some parts. Like just randomly, the guy, anyway, I was just like, it's true. But I actually remember we were obsessed with the editing in Hot
Yeah.
Fuzz. Do you
Yeah,
remember
the
this?
quick
We
zoom,
just, we loved-
the
No,
map
the chopping it like the way Edgar Wright like plans out his films and the way that like he sets it up for post is stellar. And I think about what is the movie Brent, forgive me, I'm drawing a blank, but like his film with the driver, is it just called Driver?
oh, Baby Driver?
Baby
Baby
Yeah.
Driver. Baby Driver is a perfect example. Like look at that oneer at the front of the film where it's like it is absolutely set up for the song. Like every single beat is planned.
I
and it's
wouldn't
funny,
even go as far back as
actually-
space.
I-
You know,
I just heard an interview with Edgar Wright on another podcast, and he was sort of talking about like his influences and his inspiration were like Evil Dead and like Sam Raimi stuff,
Yeah.
and it kind of tracks like those hard zooms, those heavy cuts. Yeah, sorry.
It feels heavy handed, but I love it. Right. So that's how I
100%.
feel about it, and it made me kind of want to watch Running Man. It doesn't come
I
out
can't
sooner.
wait to see Running Man.
I'm really excited to see Running Man.
Yeah.
'Cause I think in the hands of that filmmaker, it's going to be it's
well crafted.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
I could talk about this forever, guys. Like the
know.
similar movies. It's funny too. I remember thinking one of my favorite books is Rebel Without a Crew, right? Robert Rodriguez. And I remember this is so funny, Brent. You had the book. You would. It was almost like your Bible, dude. You would like bring it around. I just remember like you were just so into it. And I was like,
funny, I was just about to say that about you. I was gonna be like, I remember you. That was like right you. So yeah, it was very.
I'm the same. I have the book, literally over there. It was great.
That's awesome.
And
John. Oh, go ahead, please.
no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say like one of the interesting things that that's happened to Brent and I since we all work together is like we were all big fans of like Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, Kevin Smith, all these cats, and weirdly enough, the world's like just got a lot smaller as he and I continue to work in the industry. We are now friends with Harley Quinn Smith. Brent shot her music videos. It's just kind of weird to think about like all those cats that we really dug, who were our influences. Man, we've had the luxury of like meeting some of them in weird ways. Actually.
Yeah. What's that like, guys? I mean, tell people what that's like. Sometimes, I certainly don't have it, myself. I have some connections and it's kind of cool. You're like, hey, I met this person. But what's that like? How does that feel? I mean, do you kind of just get used to it? Do you get like, what's your attitude about it?
Go ahead, Brent.
I think there's like two things that happen there. It's like one, what are you like starstruck by? I don't particularly get starstruck by like celebrities.
It's kind of hard to be starstruck
because of
these
that.
days.
Like I've been told that I'm like a really easygoing, amicable person on set. With Harley, that was really cool because Kevin Smith is a amazing filmmaker that like actually inspired and motivated me to go from wanting to be a artist or an animator into film. So it's very cool that she and I became friends, and it happened through just like the network that you grow when you keep filming in that world. But doing this for a long time now, and I think once you grow a professional, like an outwardly professional personality on set, it's very observable, and I think that puts people at ease. And whether like you start becoming friends with the director or a cinematographer or any type of artist that has reached a certain level or is inspiring, whether that turns into something after rap, is that's cool. If it isn't, it's just you that's our job. It's you're working with these folks, and like to be quite honest, I get very starstruck with cinematographers that
Oh
have
yeah.
inspired me. Like
Give me some names. Give me some names.
Dean Cundy, who
I
shot
knew you were gonna say Dean
Halloween.
Cundy.
Yeah, I had met him a couple of times, but I had the good fortune of getting have lunch with him and his wife, and get to hear about what it was like when we were shooting Jurassic Park and how he brought his family out for that. And I
That's
mean,
wild.
he's a legend. He's hit a certain threshold of just notoriety as a DP. And of course, I've met the legend Deakins at.
Oh, that's right.
You would always talk about Roger Deakins.
I think
This is my
a
memory.
lot of yeah,
You
a
loved
lot of
Roger Deakins.
I still do. I think a lot of DPs are enamored with Deakins or very early on, and I don't mean that you step away from it, but I think early on, he is such a craftsman, and his work was so gorgeous that it's hard not to go like, wow, like him and
Oh,
Brent.
I totally agree. Yeah. And I think
Uh,
people know it without even knowing who he is. They're like, this movie looks incredible, right?
yeah.
You
Well,
know, it's funny because sorry, I
no,
want
it's
you to
good.
keep going, Brent, but I was going to say, like, one of the reasons that I love Deakins, and I think I've kind of become a little bit more appreciative of, like, his functionality, his approach, because he was a documentarian and a stills photographer. Like, I've always, like, in a weird way, I've had a little bit of reservation about, like, well, I don't really have reservation about being in reality TV, but I am not a consumer of reality television. I'm not, but that just so happens to be the genre of work that I've been in, um, dominantly for the
I
last.
mean, the irony was I wasn't a consumer of fashion, and like 90%
Yeah,
of
yeah, I
my
know. I think that's something
portfolio
that's
is
why.
fashion.
Well, Brandon, wait a sec. I did ask you to move your Love is Blind 8 poster before we started recording. So, I'm
Wait,
just
what?
kidding. No. But
No,
no,
but actually, I think
yeah.
what's kind of important here, and I
Did you
think
see how like he had like a dead look? Is because he didn't know that
He
you were
was
talking
like,
about a
how
reality.
did you,
know,
how did you know? It's like, it was 6. Season 6 was my favorite.
I knew it,
Yes.
but only because I've heard it. But that's what's crazy. Emmy nominated, unscripted filmmaker, and you just saw him go glass eyed. Like, what?
thanks for calling me out, Brent. Appreciate it.
But no,
Love
and
is blind. Oh, but what I wanted to land on there that I think is kind of fascinating is, like, and I think this is kind of important for anybody who goes into the arts, or I guess, like, to a degree, any particular career. Like, you don't necessarily know, um, you know what what the road is going to look like, and I think that is particularly true with film. Like, Brent is a hell of a cinematographer, pardon my French,
Thanks, man.
but he became an agent as well. Agency, I never saw that for him. Me, like, becoming a producer, being in reality TV, never would have saw that. You've gone into law and you've maintained to keep that, parallel within the things that you like. I think it's really important, like, for people to sort of, like, at least communicate that to younger people who are trying to pursue their
It's not a straight line.
yeah, you have to understand, like, it's you'll be surprised at where it takes you. You'll be
Yep.
surprised
Well
at where
said.
you land.
Well
that's
said.
so interesting. Yeah. I mean, one thing I noticed about you guys immediately was you are artists. You're both artists, right? I remember when I saw Brent draw something for the first time, I was like, holy cow. And I know you're the same, Brandon. So, or you guys play the saxophone, right? Like, it's just so incredibly, like, artistically talented. And I hate to, I didn't want to say gifted, because I think it's like developed too, right? It's not just like
Right.
you're
Sure.
born with it. I think it's, just from talking to you both,
Yeah.
I know it's something that you worked on. But
Well,
it's interesting to me.
man, for saying that.
Yeah, what I would say is it's interesting to me how you both have a creative career, right? Even though you didn't know where it was going to go. Do you think? I mean, how do you think that worked out or happened?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything Brandon said is what I think a lot of young people need to hear, which is, you're captivated by people that are doing precisely what you want to do. If you're a camera person, you look at a cinematographer, you're like, that's where I want to go. I want to be I want to be Bob Richardson. I want to, want to be Paul Cameron. I want to be Steve Yedlin. Like the thing that I think people don't see is all the time in between that you are going to be zigzagging,
Working.
whether you like it or not. The industry is very large, and we joke around sometimes about how there's a lot of cinematographers. I mean, a lot of cinematographers. It's a very saturated market, but a lot of DPs don't like to talk about like a law thing they filmed, or like an interview thing they filmed. They only talk about
The commercial projects, right?
Yeah, like corporate stuff, commercial stuff. Like
so what happens. Every
yeah.
single camera person shoots this stuff, but they don't want to talk about it because you really want to craft this this outward kind of visual that says, oh no, you're doing exactly what all people think we do.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
And I think that
let me add this, Brent.
Yeah.
And I've said this a few times, and like, I'm not an ancient old man, but I've said this to a few cats, and like that, look, if you're making a living doing what you love, then you succeeded.
Yeah.
You succeeded. And that continued success, it should speak to you. Like, yes.
Yeah, if you're I mean, and making a living doesn't mean like having a fat bank account. It just means you're doing what you dig, and you're capable of paying the bills and keeping things afloat, and that's extremely important. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't you shouldn't
Aim for
you shouldn't aim for the thing that you want to do. But I think the most like compelling aspect of choosing to work in the film industry is that there are so many different facets to work in. Like it's pretty crazy. And I think that you also have to have the wherewithal for the slow times. Because this isn't a 4-wall company, and in our world, that obviously that's an obvious thing, but the truth is when you're getting into it, it can be really hard to be a freelancer.
be discouraging.
It can be discouraging, but you have to also understand that it's kind of part of what this industry is. Unless you go work for a production company, a studio, an ad agency, if you're a salaried employee, you're going to have like slow times.
You're going to be a moment.
Insanely busy times. And you're going to complain about how busy that is, and then it's going to be really slow, COVID, and you're like, oh my God, why would I complain about busy times?
When do I go back to college?
And
What do you?
It's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's okay to be impatient because it's hard. People who work for companies see the people around them doing things, and freelancers in the film industry don't see that, and so it can feel kind of lonely, especially if you see people who are suddenly at a certain point in their career, they've excelled to a certain point of the career.
Sure. Oh yeah,
but
and even those cats are
still
going through those times. We know great DPs, great directors, production designers, script supervisors who get the best freaking gigs. They will also have a few months of nothing. Our industry is always in flux, and I also think that it's important for people to know that ubiquity. Okay, like. I can't think of any other way to say it. Like, look, if you got a 9-to-5 at GM, rock and roll, you know what you're doing. But even those cats are going to have moments of pause and problem.
Sure.
I've actually said this a number of times. Brent and I, we played in a band for a long time. Our piano player is a lawyer. I found significant and weird parallel between the law and film. Like, just it's weirdly parallel, but. I guess take that away. My point being is, look, you have to understand that film is a very, very difficult industry to be in, and you have to be willing to curate who you are and what you want to do, while also being willing to exist within it. Meaning, like, you're gonna take that TV job. You might take that corporate job. That doesn't mean you're not doing the thing that you would like to do. Look, you got to work.
Yeah, I would add one more thing to that, which is, what you were saying, curating, your work. The industry has evolved quite a bit in regards to social media,
Oh
and
yeah. Oh,
it's
Brent and I were like,
yeah.
I feel like, and I'm sorry, Brent, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was going to say, I feel like that was one of the things that you and I did really, really well. Like when he and I would get,
I wasn't great at it, I'll be honest, but like,
I thought you were
but
actually. You were the one who pointed out. Sorry, go ahead.
since
No, no.
becoming like a manager and an agent, the thing is that I always say if people don't know what you're doing or what you're out there, then you're just that's the first thing that really will stifle the opportunities that you'll get. So I'm being a bit of a hypocrite because like I get these gigantic lulls in posting, but for my clients, for my roster, I'm like, hey, constantly post, constantly tag. The industry now has absolutely adapted to social media, and social
Oh,
media is
100%.
now kind of the
It's
new
huge, right?
portfolio. Yeah, and
Yes.
we're competing with we're competing with cinematographers who are going to have I can only speak on what I know, so I'm going to constantly go back to DPs, um, because DPs are really they're really becoming uh, they're really becoming kind of these rock stars on sets these days. There's really really cool DPs, and I say that, and that makes me sound not cool, but I'm doing it like and there is a necessary evil to putting yourself out there, to constantly showing your work, and you know there's a lot of people who don't like doing that, and it but embrace it because they have to. um but there are younger art directors, younger creative directors at ad agencies, younger buyers at companies who are using what's happening in social media and then other platforms to make decisions. You
I also
know,
think Brent's bringing up a
It's
really
true. I mean, guys, it's true in the legal world too, right? Like, you put out content. I mean, what's interesting to me, and gosh, I feel like this could be we should set up a whole different call for this. But one of my thesis in business in the legal world, particularly with regard to the connection to entertainment in the last, I would say 6 or 7 years, has been every company is a media and entertainment company, whether you think you are or not.
yeah.
And I think that's what you guys are getting at, right? Is like, hey, it used to be where you create a demo reel and you spend all this time on it, right? I mean, 20 years ago, that's the only way, like that you had a demo reel, right? And you were like, I remember we were talking about what do we put on our demo reel, right?
yes, yeah,
And now I
and
think, yeah,
still
well, I
do.
think what you're saying is, hey, just put your stuff on socials and it's like, just do a search for me and you'll see all my stuff, right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think I think it's just that is where people are making decisions right now. Instagram is sometimes more important than your
A
personal
website, right?
website.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean,
I mean,
yeah,
I've
people
got
get
a
starting
I've got an
DPs to
interesting.
IGs. It's just
Mhm.
like just saturated with still frames of their work.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I have an interesting perspective since I started. There's a lot of stuff I've learned being on this side of the screen now, being the person that's negotiating rates and things like that, that I wish I would have known. I mean, again, I'm still a cinematographer. I'm never going to stop shooting, but speaking from the perspective of
Yeah.
negotiating,
Tell me something. Yeah. So what'd you learn or what'd you pick up?
I see that people like make decisions just by looking at the stills of your page.
Really?
Yeah, they
For
want. I
real.
mean, you can basically now say that people are making such quick decisions by just looking at your curation. And it's really important that your curation shows a similarity in color and exposure and
Style.
visual, like
On a profile,
style.
you're saying
Yeah,
they'll look
on
at your page or look at your profile and
right.
just be like,
Yeah.
is it like coherent or does it look cool
People make
essentially?
Consistent.
employers make
And
it.
like we did an
Yeah.
experiment, and sorry, Brandon, I was gonna say we did an
No,
experiment
no,
with
no.
an artist on our page that was just not getting work as much as the other artists. And you know the I was thinking a lot. I mean, I take a I put a lot of thought into how these artists are looking at our site. And so I was like, hey, let me do something here. I'm just gonna change all your stills. And so I went in there and I changed this DP stills to be like pretty much like consistent and a little more marketable to some of the
Yeah.
clients that were coming in. And we booked them almost immediately. Almost immediately.
Wow.
So I think it's important for people to understand that what's going on right now is the way people are making decisions um, for talent when they're booking them or art buying is very fast and very quick, and it's what your still inspiration looks. It's more important than what the content for the marketability of it, not
So,
for the
and what's
yeah.
fascinating to me about this for both of you is, look, I get it for cinematographers. Like, if you can produce cool content on a visual platform like an Instagram, yeah, maybe. But in that, let me ask this question: is the skill in putting your best stuff on Instagram, is that how much of that is actually linked to are you a good DP?
I want to jump in on this because I think Brent has a better perspective than I do, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's something uh, that I've observed and that I think a lot of people need to know. You do need to you do need to respect being a technician. Look, we know that there are a lot of cats on social. Look, and there. I'm not trying to, downplay some cats who throw out some cool comedic stuff or anything like that. But like, if you're actually trying to be a photographer, if you're actually trying to be somebody who can light and lens, you still have to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
Um,
what we agree.
I think there's I think there's a particular uh, distinction of you know a social media influencer who like throws stuff out there versus you being an artist putting yourself on social media. Like I think
Well
like
said. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, good point. Good distinction, Brandon.
I'll jump off of that and again I can explain from what what I experience um and it's a really good question, Mash. The reality is
Don't lose.
your curation that's your storefront, so you better make that storefront look really good. You don't want a crappy restaurant, but no one knows that the food is amazing. But the thing is that once that storefront has worked and it's gained the attention, the content must be good because that will be the next step. So yeah, your
Yeah.
curation will get you in the door. If you have an ugly site or you don't have anything online, you're really harming your chances to get booked. But then like once they hit play, once they're like, okay, now we're gonna share this with the client, we're gonna share this, with the brand, they're gonna look at that stuff and go, okay, maybe it's a little subpar or maybe it doesn't. So I'm not saying that the only thing is the way you curate your work. But uh, I'm not saying that's the only thing. I'm just saying that that has to be
Yeah, that's
your
got to be good.
yeah.
Yep.
And but then I mean, we've experienced this so many times. You know very quickly when you're on set if someone knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Don't pretend to know what you're doing. Everyone figures it out. If you want to be good at
Here's a
camera, you got to know what you're doing.
yeah,
Just
guys. Or Brandon, were you gonna say something? I don't want to.
Oh no, I wanted to bring this up to piggyback off of what Brent was saying, and I feel like this is something that a lot of cats who aspire to be filmmakers or in the
Yeah.
film industry, I don't think that's something that they know. You have to understand that like filmmaking, it doesn't matter whether it's television, whether it's narrative film, whether it's corporate, whether it's commercial, it is a departmentalized functioning, business.
Mhm.
All right. So you have your director, you have your DP. Your DP has his gaffer and his G&E team. He has an AC. Like you got production designers if you are on a set where you're lucky enough to have a PD. Like I feel like a lot of people, a lot of young cats probably want to, just be directors or something like that. Um, and don't really necessarily understand like, the functionality of a set.
Gosh,
Like,
so
like
true, so true.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
Brandon,
I
well,
agree.
I'll say this is a thought I had. So I actually acted in a movie recently. I think I told you both
Did
you
you
guys.
really?
I did, yeah. So it was a decent sized role, most recent CDI production, and I normally do production legal. It's a group that I do kind of, and I co-produce.
Oh,
But
that's cool.
one of the best things for me going on set, other than the last time they killed me with a bowling ball to the face, so this time they didn't kill me, thank goodness. Um, but um, but what was one of the things that strikes me literally when I go act, I started acting, right? Like in high school, I loved to act. In college, I acted, and I kind of got tired of it because I hated waiting for people to pick me. So I was like, well,
Oh, shit.
what do you got to do where they don't, you pick them, they don't pick you, right? So, um, but one of the things that I picked up on right away was it's amazing, and I'm not saying this to downplay actors because I think great actors are amazing, all actors, right? But how little I did as an actor compared to when I was like on the crew. And like it was so interesting to me. Like I just had to know my lines, right? But they're coming up, they had to get there like way earlier than me. They started pre-pro way earlier, right? Like it was so interesting to me, like sometimes if you're casually watching something, right? Like a movie or television show, you just see the actors. You don't see everything behind the scenes, but we're
Yeah,
in reality, the actors are just one of like 100 different pieces
yeah,
that all get this image on the screen. And so every time I go on set, is particularly this time where I had a very significant role. It just struck me so much, like exactly what you were saying, Brandon, like the production designer, like this, every piece of this set somebody put here, right?
Mhm.
Every prop that was in my hand, like somebody thought of that, right? And it's on the call sheet. And like
Yep.
same thing with a lot of choices are being made by a DP, right? And like, and I'm asking, like, they're telling me what they want and what lens they're using. So, what kind of expression do we need, and the blocking and all this kind of stuff. And somebody's already mapped all this out, and I just show up, right? Now I got to know my lines, but it's really interesting to me, like how much, unless you like the two of you like are on set and you can see it, like there's so much that goes into it, right? More than just, hey, the actors just show up and start talking.
No, 100%. And like,
yeah. I mean, look, there are cats in in LA that made a full time career just working in the studios and being grips and electrics, and I've got a lot of respect for that because there's a
oh, you got
there's a
G&E
level
is a
of
department I feel like is, I don't mean to cut you off, Brent, but I was going to say, because I know you respect G&E in a big bad way.
yeah.
I feel like G&E is a department that most
Well, and
people
say what
who
G&E means for someone that doesn't know.
Grip
What is
and
it? What do they do? Yeah,
Grip and
yes,
electric.
yeah.
They're the department that uh, essentially they work with the camera departments to make sure the lights are lit and everything is safe in terms of like
Yeah.
uh, in terms of the grip gear and things like that. I mean,
Which isn't
they're
always easy, right? I mean, that's
not
not like
easy. I mean,
you don't
it's
just
just
plug it
performance.
in, right?
No, there we know there are so many roles
oh,
in that
a
world
good
that
gaffer
are
will work with
yeah
their DP. Like if a DP's like, hey, I've got this lighting design, this like lighting setup. I'm not saying every DP does this, but I've been with DPs who like really Brent probably could speak to this better than I
Well,
can.
I would. It just depends on where the cinematographer came from. We have a guy that I came up with here in Michigan, who was in electric. He just got into the ASC last month, and
Oh,
his
that's
name,
cool.
yeah, his name is Mike Berlucci. Is a
That's who you're
wonderful
talking about.
career. Super proud of him. His work is a combination of his career, and then there are cinematographers that came from like where I came from, color and DIT work. And so, I remember looking at all of my favorite cinematographers or cinematography to try to figure out like, was there an influence? And I found that a lot of the stuff that I liked was production design and color. So
Mhm.
I would say that, probably why like I was decent in fashion was because that was more influential to me. I just think that like, we I made a joke that kind of like all roads lead to Rome when it comes to this industry. And it really is true. You don't necessarily have to follow a blueprint to figure out which role you want to do. Um, there are ACs who become cinematographers, or Steadicam operators who become cinematographers. There's DPs to transition to directing. There's, gosh, I mean,
Gappers,
stylists to become directors.
Well, didn't just, and I'm gonna throw in a reference. Didn't what's his face move from like scoring to directing that Werewolf by Night? Did you guys watch that Marvel? Was it Michael Giacchino?
Yeah.
How do you say his name? He was like composer. He was a composer.
He is. He's the guy. He's an incredible.
Giacchino. How do you say his name?
Michael Giacchino.
I have no idea how to say his name.
He directed
The Incredibles.
He's great. He's an incredible composer.
He got to direct Werewolf by Night. I mean, again, like arguably one of the best Marvel series.
Okay, wait. Werewolf by Night is incredible. I'm just gonna say this.
I love it.
Just to state it.
So
Okay.
Clear. Is Werewolf by Night the Oscar Isaac Marvel one?
No, that's Moon Knight.
No. Yeah, that's Moon Knight.
Diego Luna, I think, is in Werewolf by Night.
And
it's black and white.
I'm lazy. I've not seen it
actually has characters from Marvel lore that I was like, oh wow, they're really pulling from the.
It's I actually loved it. I wish it were longer. I was disappointed because it's not like a feature length movie. It's a little bit shorter. I felt like
it was a limited
series.
Yeah. I can never have a whole podcast.
Have you and I ever gotten on Disney stuff? Or am I forgetting anything? Like
did Brent? Oh, you're saying did Brent ever work on it?
No, I'm just curious. Yeah, I'm curious.
What?
Am I drawing a blank? Have we ever done like a Marvel or Disney thing?
I negotiated second unit for Ironheart with one of my artists.
Oh, that's cool.
That was a big old NDA. That was a fascinating experience.
Did you? Wait a second. This is actually fun now because I think I told you guys too. We worked on some Hulu movies. So we were talking with Disney lawyers. That was my experience. So I did mainly independent stuff for years. And then 4 or 5 years ago, my colleague Bill and I started working on some Hulu movies, right, when Disney had already purchased Hulu. And so, we worked on some fun stuff. We were talking to Disney entertainment lawyers, which is always crazy. Disney contracts, by the way, are crazy, just so you know.
I mean, the contract we negotiated for Ironheart, and again, it was second unit. It was an experience, and I'm happy to say that.
Well, I want to say around the time the three of us worked together, I worked on Batman versus Superman. Where it was.
I remember this. Yeah.
That was right when I had moved.
That's right. You went to LA. Yeah. He worked with Zack Snyder.
I worked I shot the mocap stuff.
Yeah.
So it was the fight with Affleck's and Cavill's stunt folks. We shot that at the Bob Hope Airport, and then Brandon gets booked on the actual set in Detroit. So the irony was he's filming Henry and Affleck when.
Is it the Martha scene? Is it the Martha scene?
Yes, it's the Martha scene.
Did you shoot the Martha scene?
I was part of the Martha scene, but I was not there for that.
We were
legendary line. I was not there.
I know you weren't the cinematographers. Were you there? Did you hear him say Martha?
So I was, because I was non-union. So for your listeners,
should you be saying this?
A lot of those pictures.
Statute limitations. It's fine.
Camera union is IATSE 600. Reality TV tends not to be union. They tend to be non-union work. So I've never had a.
Keep talking. I'm going to turn my camera off and grab something.
Okay.
I was going to say I support the unions in a big bad way. I didn't personally. I couldn't validate joining the union. I wasn't getting union work.
I gotcha.
So to be on Batman versus Superman, the only department that I could work for was VFX. VFX.
This is the slate from. It's called Catch the Kick. That was when. So it was called.
No way.
Halo. So
Well, they had another name, Brent. It was like a rabbit bunny. I can't remember, but I was on the call
No,
sheet.
I know. But yeah, so here, October 9th, 2013, I had to slate 4 cameras with this teeny tiny, not so impressive slate. But
Oh, I got a
the
great
funny
story.
thing about it was that, you know, we got that gig because there was a colleague of ours who was a PA when I worked with him, who was working with
Are you talking
the
about who was good? Sorry.
VFX. He was working with the VFX supervisor.
Yep. He worked on Ghostbusters. I know what you're talking
Yes.
about.
And then he just happened to tell, he's like, hey, there we go. We're going to get ready to shoot some of the VFX scenes for Batman vs. Superman in LA. Do you want to come? And he was like, I'm not there, but I know a guy who's so obsessed with Batman that you would make his day. And it's the truth. It was that's like, I am a Batman aficionado. And I didn't just say yes. I said, well, like, give me the map. I'll be there.
Oh, by the way, that was the longest day I have ever worked. Out of the few days that I was on it, I worked like an 18-hour. Like at the end of it, it was a damn near a 24-hour day. But like I did the overnight for the Doomsday fight scene. So they had built out the sets in Pontiac. So we shot throughout the day, but it was so funny too because Zack Snyder, like, he would come and he would direct on this particular day, and then he would be on like one of those little scooters and fly over. So if you see within the film some of these little B-roll scenes where Superman is flying down and saving somebody off a roof or whatever,
Yeah.
they had multiple sets built out, so he was just bouncing back and forth between sets. And I was like, this guy's insane.
You know what's funny is I lived in Pasadena for 10 years, and one Halloween a few years ago, my wife and I were getting pumpkins with our now oldest, then baby, and I saw this dude wearing a hat, and I love good fedoras, you know, and so I go up to him. I was like just about to be like, hey, where did you buy that hat? And I'm like, excuse me, I'm like, your name's Zach? And he goes, oh yeah. I'm like, Zack Snyder. And he's just like, yeah. I'm like, I worked for you. He's like, you did? I'm like, yeah. I'm Superman. Sweetest guy. He was there getting pumpkins with his kid.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
But,
awesome.
you know, again, to clarify, we're talking about a role that was a very small role. Breen and I were working for the VFX
Yeah.
people.
It's still a
And
cool, fun story.
No, but it's a fun
You know
story
what?
because it's like there are so many different things that
I
that
think-
you work on. It's sometimes it's like these little experiences that for the charm of being a fan or what have
Well,
you
also,
that you
I
talk
think
more
it's-
about than like shooting a Super Bowl ad or something. I
But
don't know.
I-
That's my opinion.
I also think it's like, look, Brent and I have very we both have very pointed careers. We've obviously established what, you know, we're good at and what we're going to do, and that's not an egotistical thing to say. But what I think is important that I like, if you could convey to anybody who wants to be in the entertainment industry, is to understand that it's relatively oh gosh, what's the word? It's unpredictable is an obnoxious way to put it, but you know, if you want to function within this industry, like Brent said, like, you know, if you're not in the studio system, if you're not like working for a house, if you are freelance, you've got to be limber.
Yeah.
And I think you need it's an interesting thing to convey. Like everybody wants to make a movie, you know, and perhaps you can, but everybody also wants to make a living, and you should. And you just have to understand that if you're going to operate within that system, you just, you know, it requires you to, you know,
Yeah.
take
Well,
gigs up.
And it's interesting to me thinking of it through a legal lens, right? Like I never intended to do be in entertainment at all. Like I went to law school thinking I was giving up that dream and I would just write. I just thought I'll just
Well,
write.
you didn't.
And then, but just what happened was I didn't know I knew the kind of legal part or the entertainment industry part. I could speak the lingo and I kind of knew how things worked. But when I got the law degree, then some of my old film buddies came to me and said, John, you know, we hate attorneys, but we like you. Can you help us with this film? And that's really how I got started in entertainment. I never thought I would do it. And now, you know, I feel like what's happened is I got this work or got this experience working on productions and then did a lot with music and then did some unscripted TV and then did a lot with writing and authors. And then about 2014, 15, influencers started to come around. And so now everybody's kind of become in some way like the entertainment industry has started to like meld or blend into almost every industry, right? And so it's been super interesting for me, like thinking about everything you guys are saying. It still applies. Like you got to be a professional, right? You got to have a skill set, but at the same time, now you got to manage, right? Like now it's like in a weird way, everybody, you're not on set all the time, but it's like there's way more circumstances where there's like a set experience, right? And that skill set really helps.
Well,
And
you're probably a perfect example of you're probably a perfect example of like, you know, to tell any young person or some cat who's trying to get into the industry, be like, I'm an entertainment lawyer. I am involved. Brent is a cinematographer, but he's also an agent repping DPs. My silly butt is like dominantly in lifestyle and documentary television, which look again, like I am a Kevin Smith, Quentin Tarantino fan. I want to make a picture. I will make a picture at some point, but
yeah,
you find your way. You find your way to be involved. You find your way to work, and that's a good thing.
well, let me propose something too. Like one book that I tell everybody to read. In fact, I wrote a whole article. It's called So Good They Can't Ignore You. And it was based on, if you ever saw, there's the old Steve Martin interview where somebody said, what advice would you give to someone? Do you know what I'm going to say? And he said,
no, I love, no, finish it, please. That's great.
he said, be so good they can't ignore you. And what he really was saying in the whole book is about is most people have a dream and they have a passion and they start with the passion and then they just try to like do that thing. And what the whole book is about is first get a valuable skill.
Yeah.
First get good. And that, I think that's what you guys were kind of saying is like, when you go on set, you got to know what the heck you're doing, right?
Yes.
That is what gets you all of the other stuff is having some skill, right?
But also be okay with the fact that when you first start going on set or whatever area, you know, you are going to have limited knowledge. And so don't like damn yourself if you're doing something and people are hopefully being constructive and saying, hey, it should be done this way. And then there's things that will happen that will be frustrating. Like everyone wraps a cable differently, so everyone thinks they know how to wrap a cable better.
I feel like I still wrap cables based on Dave St. George teaching me how to wrap cables, and like
that's awesome.
But by the way, I worked with Dave St. George consistently on and off for the last few years. First of all, love that man. That was your connect, I think, right?
Yeah, that's right. Dave's my old buddy. Yeah.
He's
but
the
going back to just that thing I was saying about like, you know, be okay with like, be willing to be a sponge.
Yes.
Don't get bent out of shape if people are saying, no, it's done this way. Take it, make sure they're giving you the right information, add it to your inventory of how a production is run or how you should be in your role. People will tell you to do things that might not be the best way or the right way for you to do it, but just take it. And more importantly, be nice, because like, this industry unfortunately has a trend in for most of its period of people being screamers and yellers and telling you you're not, calling you stupid, or well, actually more colorful words. But I think especially in the last few years with some of the stuff that's been happening in our industry and other industries for accountability, I think it's becoming more and more important for you to just be nice. I'm not saying be a pushover, but for, there are some people who have learned to yell at people and to met them.
Well, I mean,
And those people, I wish I could hit with a crowbar, because all they're doing is teaching younger generations that that's how you have to be to get
Yeah.
it done.
I think there's a. Sorry, Brent. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize. I was going to piggyback off what you were saying. Is I think there is like this sort of this balance between ego and ability, and I don't think some people know how to reference those two things. Like, Brent, take off. I shouldn't have stopped you. I just thought you were touching on something that I think is incredibly important that a lot of people don't talk about.
No, it's just the sets are very nomadic, and you need to make friendships in this industry, probably in a more complex way than people who work with people every day. So
Yeah, actually.
try to be kind. And I think that there are a lot of crew members who don't subscribe to that and kind of consider the alternative of like screaming and yelling and blah blah blah. But really,
Sure.
what that is a learned behavior that ultimately does nothing except make a already intense environment more
Yeah.
intense, and not
Gosh.
in a good way. Like, I think there's I've worked for screamers, and the only thing that it ever taught me was to not be a screamer. That's it. It didn't teach me to be
Also,
better
that
at my craft. It didn't teach me to be better to people. I just like watching people literally just yelling at people on set. I was like, you're a dick, and I'm not going to be that.
bro,
And
I
Yeah.
give Brent so
great.
much credit. Like, Brent is one of the few people, and I've not had too many opportunities to do this, but he's had the ability to walk away, like, for literally from a gig. He'll be like, you know what, done. And you know what?
But that took a
Something
lot of
even
years to finally go, oh wait, he's referencing a film that I got hired to DP, but
wasn't just that one though. You walked
no,
away
I
from
know, I worked with, but like I think that like you work with someone who thinks yelling at their crew members is gonna get anywhere. And I'm not gonna say what it is, but that particular experience was this director, somewhat known, is yelling at the gaffer, sound guy, me, the AD, and and then he came back and he was like, all right, like, use your magic and film this thing. Come on. And I was just like, I was sitting there. I'm like, when ever in my past experience as a DP, working with a screamer, working with someone who gets bent out of shape, working with someone who just goes to anger rather than problem solving, had staying on that set changed anything? So I went over to the producer. I'm like, I'm out. I'm like, I've seen screamers before. I know exactly what's going to happen. This guy's going to scream for the rest of the movie. I'm done. And I left.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I, again, like, you can find these parallels into any particular industry. Like, again, I imagine in law, like, you probably work with someone.
No,
Let's just say it's hitting very close to home, guys. Hitting very close to home. I will say this. I respect that. My law firm and my writing business, we have core values, and one of them is treat people like people.
Yep.
And that's one of the things I look for in someone that I'm going to work with, and even clients. If clients start to treat me, it's usually not me. It's usually someone that works with me, where they might talk down to them or not treat them like a person, where, do this, or they'll just, like, it could be yelling, right? But more often it's an attitude like they're not important. And, that's, to me, that's just a core value misalignment, and we will fire clients. Like, doesn't matter how much money they're bringing in, right? Like, we just can't work together. And if it's a vendor, same thing, right? It's just, it does not work. And what I've learned too, being involved in lots of disputes, if there is a stakeholder somewhere, like a partner, somebody that is going to have a high level of influence in an organization, if they're like that, right, then you got to run, or you got to resolve it. And a lot of times they're high performers too. So that's what makes it hard. But when you hold the line, honestly, I think it actually helps the people on the team understand who you are,
Yeah.
because there's a great line. You know, we're not defined by like our best moments. We're defined by the behavior that we don't tolerate. You know,
I love that you said that, and without going into detail about a situation, because I've now been a business owner for a couple of different companies, and you know, I had someone I worked with that from the get go, didn't know who this person was really when I decided to work with them, but the writing was on the wall in the beginning that this person just had some real toxic behavior. To your point, though, there was high performance, and so there was a certain level of at that time insecurity where I was like, well, no, I want to see this go,
yeah,
and the behavior never changed. It was incredibly controlling. It was incredibly toxic. Person would talk poorly about people, which is not my vibe at all. And you get so deep into it that it's harder to get out. And the inevitable end is you just separate. You know, no matter how long you go, unless there's some crazy change, which
yeah,
typically at a certain point people don't. But like, you know, trusting your gut about what you can
Mhm.
tolerate is what you need to do. I've even done that with some friends that I adore
Yeah.
and friends now, where we started working together and I saw some behaviors and I was like, nope, I'd rather be your friend than screw this friendship up by working with you. Um, Not so bluntly, but like you know, even with good people, there are behaviors that you have to like say, this just does not align with the way I work or how I want to, you know, create a culture.
Amen. Yeah,
And you know, you typically learn that lesson the hard way though. That's the sad reality of starting to gain that strength of character, that ability to say I will not work with people like this, is that you have to work with that person to understand
yeah.
they
Gosh,
exist.
as
Yeah,
a I
it's a little
I
detective work, you know?
I love this combo, and I actually think I do. My time is short, but let me ask you. Let's end with a question. I'd love to get both of your thoughts on this one question. And by the way, I feel like we got to do this again because
God love it,
there's
man.
so
Yeah.
much more. We like. We should just pick a movie basically and talk about it. But
Yeah.
in
I'd love to
fact,
tell you more about the agency world too. And
I think it's
that,
fun, dude.
yeah,
Guys. It's we could just talk forever, and we
You know.
yeah. There's so much fun stuff. But here's a question. So I'd love for you to each answer this question, and then give any type of contact info that you want to give out, whether it's website, your company, anything you want to say, like, hey, how could people get in touch with you, or like whatever you want, like if people
sure.
want to hire you, work with you, that kind of stuff.
How to
But
stay
here,
away.
yeah, or yeah, like what, yeah, if people don't want to spend time with you, then help them in reverse. But here's the question: what makes you a pro in what you do? And
Wow.
then end with your contact info or whatever you want to share about what you're doing.
You want to go first, Brand?
No, I want you to go first because I want to piggyback.
You know, obviously there's always going to be this thought that can be intrusive, which is you're a fraud, right? That you aren't a pro and that you're just being tolerated in your industry. I think being a professional is a combination of how well you know the industry, the craft, or what you're supposed to be doing in your role, and how you combine that with the want to constantly evolve and grow, and then how you communicate that to the people you work with, because people don't understand what you're offering. It's really not their job to like figure it out or to, you know, try to read your mind. Those three things are what make you a professional, I think, in the role that you want to be, and that can apply to anything. But always kind of like fight that self-doubt. You don't have to sit here and pretend at year one, year two, year three that you're not still green or new. You can still have that. Be humble about that. I'm almost 20 years into just doing this. This is all I've done, and I would only say that you know, in the last few years did I start getting that self-doubt voice out of my head and realizing that I spent enough time that I can call myself a professional in my industry.
It's
And
awesome.
I don't need to have a debate with someone about that. I don't need to argue with someone about that. I don't need to prove myself to someone about that, because all I need to do is just keep working and know that no matter what, you're gonna learn something new. The industry is evolving so much. I mean, the way we digest media isn't the same as it was 20 years ago. The way we get hired isn't the same way. Even the type of opportunities have turned. I mean, we see less movies being greenlit. We see commercials being vertical and applied only to social media. We see, celebrities that were, more film centric now in commercials.
Yeah.
Everything is changing and different. And so my professional career and how I'm applying my experience still has to adapt to what's going on. Um, so that's my answer to that.
What's the best way to get in touch, or tell us what's going on? Like, if people want to
Yeah.
follow up.
So I run a couple of companies. So my our agency is called Kismet Artists. So it's kismet-artists.com. We rep uh, phenomenal cinematographers in LA and New York, and we have, honestly, we have DPs that are essentially in other states or can travel to other states. So it's all about asking. But if you want to, like, if you're someone that's like, oh man, I want to shoot something and I want it to be, you know, a type of caliber that you're envisioning, I'll champion our roster all day long. And then I also run a development company called Hasbin. It's hasbin.co. We just had our first project in Tribeca this year called The Rose. It's a documentary about this band. It was pretty incredible. We were there. It was a sold out show, 600 people. Absolutely bizarre to be there and get to see it with an audience that loved the band. And we're currently in development on a feature that I'm working actually with you on, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, it's
That
fun.
that we'll have announcements for that soon. But uh, we got a great cast, and I'm really excited about that. It's a script from a writing partner of mine, Alex Baumgartner. And yeah, for more updates on that, hasbeen.co. And then if you just want to see some of the work I've done, go to brettmata.com. And that's my work as a cinematographer and as a
Yeah,
director
we'll
DP.
include the link. Yeah, that's great. All these links. That's great.
I have fewer links.
All right. What
These
makes you
all
what
all
makes you a
his
pro?
links are my links. Um, what does it mean to be a pro? I think was the question, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I would say it really depends on what you think pro is. If we're talking about like management, if we're talking about managing a team or managing a
In
crew,
what you do, yeah, I would just say
I,
what makes someone a pro, or what makes you a pro versus
I okay, I would say
amateur.
just I would say because I'm professional because I know my tech, I know my craft, I'm constantly learning. I think for you to be professional in what you do, regardless of any industry, I think there's a ubiquity of like you have to be constantly learning, you have to be constantly adapting to changes in technology and approach. I also think being a professional, specifically as a leader, there is a difference between management and a leader.
Mm-hmm.
Your ability to lead is your ability to, um, you know, uh, propel the people who are working for you so that they want to work for you and with you.
Well said.
Um, Management is your ability to, sort of run the day and do multiple tasks. And I think a lot of people don't like make that sort of distinguishable
Well
task.
said.
You want people to feel elevated, and you want them to feel like they can do the job for you. I think
Well
again,
said.
this is one of the things I was saying earlier. Like a lot of um, film people who want to be filmmakers do not consider that what a production is, what a set is. You know, you're working with people, it's departmentalized, and you've got to be able to like dance and, you know, work with these people and make
Yeah.
sure that they want to work with you. You can be an artist, you know, you can like be the best fucking lenser. Pardon my French, I am so sorry. You can be the best bloody lenser and operator all day, but if you can't work with people, it's never going to do you any good. So I think that's
Can I add something to that, Brandon, that I think is really important?
and mashing. Yeah, I know I slipped the F word in. That was an accident.
No, you're
Sorry.
fine. Yeah, you're totally fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry.
No, I love that you just said there is something to distinguish between a leader and a professional, because I do believe that there are some incredible leaders who might lack certain
Yeah.
certain skills that someone who can manage, and that's why we have production managers and coordinators.
Oh no,
It's a really good point. Like I know directors who might lack that type of skill set or focus, but they can get you to show up at 5 a.m. and work your tail off. And lastly, the term artist, which I love, is often used as a backhanded backhanded comment that you lack the ability to be a leader or to be a, you know, be like a CEO-esque kind of person.
Sure.
The truth is that there is always going to be folks in business side of industries that think the term artist is a calm way to say, you go do that, we'll go ahead and handle the ship. But we know so many people who are artists who come from the art world, art being any type of, you know, any
Right.
type of thing that can not only be entrepreneurs, can run businesses, that can be very tactful and strategic. There is absolutely a lot of CEOs and leaders and other type of head ofs or directors of that come from an artistic background, and that's something I'm really passionate about, because being in the film industry, you do deal with production companies and advertising agencies and studio people who, if a majority of your work is, you know, on set as a cinematographer or as a designer or as an artist, they almost kind of immediately assume you don't have the capacity to run something. So I just wanted to say that, because that's
let me wrap up to be a professional is to if you've elected a particular craft, be as efficient at it as possible,
right.
and be respectful and lead with kindness and efficiency. Best thing I can say.
That's great.
Right.
All right, Brandon, what do you want people to go, or what do you want them to know, or webs or web domain, whatever?
Oh yeah, monobrothers.com. That's Brent and I shared website. That's always a little evolving, but you can go there. You can see some of our work.
Love it.
You can also look up The Established Home on Magnolia Network, on HBO Max, or on YouTube. I think all the episodes are.
I love it.
Yeah, they're available on YouTube now. I was nominated for Outstanding Lifestyle Series in 2024 for that show. You can see a lot of my shows on Magnolia, Reservation Road. Oh gosh, we're gonna draw a blank on a bunch of stuff. But I will say
done a lot. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yes, you can find a bunch of my TV stuff, and you can find a bunch of my commercial work and with Brent on our website.
Guys, honestly, I wish we could talk for a couple more hours. I feel like it'd be super fun. But thanks for chatting. This has been awesome. This has been honestly fun just to kind of hang out with you guys. And what I love is that you both I've known you both as incredible artists, right? From 20 years ago or whatever. But it's so cool to see how like your skills have developed, right? And I don't mean it in a backhanded way. I meant like you're an incredible artist. Now I mean
that's not what I was insinuating at all.
Yeah, I mean like now it's like what I love is when I even deal with entrepreneurs, right? They're artists deep down. they're creating
Absolutely.
something,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and what I love is when you have someone that wants to create, but then they learn all the other pieces you got to put together, whether it's leadership, management, business, finance, tax, legal, right? People, all that kind of stuff. That's what's cool to me when you see that, because a lot of times where we start with the art, but then we realize, no, there's like a whole different foundation that you got to have just to get to where you do the art, right?
I like the sentence, start with the art.
Start with the art.
You said start with the art. No, but you're right. It's a really good point. It's a very good observation.
I love seeing it, and it's so cool to see you guys doing well. And we'll do this again if you guys are open to it. Maybe
100%.
Hot Fuzz marathon, guys, or Edgar Wright.
Don't threaten me with a good time, man. That's
All right. This is John Mancini, The Intense Life, and you guys stick around, but we got to wrap this up. And it's been awesome to chat with you guys.
Thanks, John.